Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to episode 19 of the Beyond Cancer series, sponsored by Epic Experience. My name is Gail, aka Sunshine. I will be your host today. Today, we're going to be talking about bone marrow transplants. First, I just want to introduce Epic in case you're new. We recently celebrated 8 years that Epic Experience has been in existence. In that time, we have hosted over 500 campers at our week-long camps. Of course, right now, things look a little different because of COVID, but hopefully we'll get that back on track soon. Nancy Farrow started Epic 8 years ago after her son was diagnosed with testicular cancer and then kind of had a hard time getting his life back on track. He had attended a group cancer week thing and came back an absolutely different person. And that camp focused on young adults, and Nancy thought, why not do this for survivors of all ages? And that's how Epic Experience was born. The Beyond Cancer series itself is sponsored by the alumni team. There are 9 of us right now we all attended Epic camps, different years, different cancers, different ages, all over the United States. But all of us had our lives touched by our week at Epic, and so this is how we're giving back. The Beyond Cancer series has had an uptick in terms of the frequency with COVID. We've been doing this every other week, talking to survivors, talking about exercise. We talked to a survivor, a literal survivor, the TV show winner, who is also a cancer survivor. So this week, we're going to be talking to Jay Carter about bone marrow transplants. And we're going to be asking him some questions, getting his perspective. And so if you're watching and you have comments, please go ahead and put them in there as we go. Welcome, Jay. Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. Jay actually volunteered at my camp when I went way back in 2016. So
yeah,
we've known each other for a while. So good to see you. So thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to start. Just tell us about yourself. Tell us about who you are, where you're from, when you went to camp, nickname, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. So I currently live in Dallas. I'm originally from the Bay Area, and I was diagnosed with leukemia back in 2011. Chronic myeloid leukemia, CML, and I went to camp January of 2015. I forget my camp name. I've volunteered at so many now that
Ed, you are Ed.
Yes, just all the camps. So
awesome. Yeah. All right. Well, you told me a little bit about your diagnosis. Why don't you go into more details? What exactly you were diagnosed with, like symptoms leading up to it, treatments, relapses, all those kind of things.
Yeah, definitely. So I was diagnosed with chronic myeloid leukemia, CML, in 2011, and I was originally treated with Gleevec. It's a class of drug called tyrosine kinase inhibitor. And so it's a targeted therapy that blocks the protein that allows the mutation that causes cancer. So I was originally treated with Gleevec, and the symptoms leading up to my diagnosis, I had a lot of general fatigue, and I was getting dizzy all the time when I was cooking dinner. I'd have random bruising everywhere, but all of it I just wrote off as being new to Texas. Like, it was the middle of summer, it's like the heat wave, I think we had maybe 45, 46 days of 100 plus temperature. So it's like, it's just me, getting used to the heat. And I don't know where these bruises came from, but I must have hit myself at the gym or something, Right. So I wrote all those symptoms off, and until like my chin started swelling one weekend. Like on Friday, it was looked like a hair bump or something. And then by Sunday, my chin's way out to here. And I was like, okay, I should probably go to the ER, right? Yeah. So went to the ER. Yeah, I went to the ER, and I was in there for about 9 hours, and I was diagnosed with leukemia then. So,
that night. I mean, wow. Now that must have been a shock. I mean, you're an athlete, right? I mean, you're otherwise healthy.
Yeah,
and you get this diagnosis. I mean, what was your initial reaction?
Yeah, so like being super active, like cancer was the last thing on my mind. So my initial diagnosis, I was a little bit scared, but at the same time, my nurse calmed me a little bit. She was also, it turns out she was a CML survivor as well. And so as she's she told me the diagnosis before the doctor did. And, I had laying on my back, I had like tears like forming, and she grabbed my hand. She's like, don't worry. I have CML also. It's controlled by a pill. You'll be fine. And so that kind of, gave me a little bit of peace in that storm, right? Like, because when she told me, I was like, when am I going to die or something? Like you hear about cancer. Other people have cancer, not me. Like, I'm young, I'm healthy, but so it was jarring, but at the same time, the nurse really helped out in that moment, and that set the stage for the first 6 months of my new life as a cancer patient, right?
Wow. So, and how old were you at the time?
I was 26 at the time. Wow. Yeah, so baby, just starting life.
Yeah, well, definitely.
Yeah,
that's really neat that nurse had a that kind of impact, and I mean that she even had the same thing. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's so crazy how that worked out. Like in that moment, the person I needed most was her to tell me that, and so it was good. I wasn't as scared as I would have been if I just got the news like coldly from a doctor, right? So it was good.
So you mentioned that kind of set the stage for the next 6 months. So what did the next 6 months look like?
The first 6 months of being a cancer patient, it was relatively normal. I had doctor checkups first. It was every week, and then it got pushed back to like every 2 weeks, and then once a month. And so things were going well. I think after 3 months or so, I was in remission, and like I was still able to work, do the school stuff. Like my life didn't change that much, and so I'd always tell myself like, yes, I have cancer, but not really, because at least I don't have to do chemo. Right. Like, so, but not quite. So it's not a big deal. And so sometime between my 6 month and 7 month checkup, it was Memorial Day weekend of 2012. And I was getting ready to go to the beach, but I had a doctor's appointment first. And I went in for the checkup, and it turns out like I relapsed in a big way, so much so that my bone marrow, the malignant cells, were multiplying out of control. And so I was admitted immediately into the hospital and had to start chemo. And so that is when,
that gets real at that point.
Getting ready for the beach and then like ending up in the hospital for chemo. Like, okay, this is real life now, So.
Wow. And you had no symptoms at that point? You had no reason to suspect that things were off again?
Not really. I had a little bit of lower back pain, but like the night sweats and the fatigue, like none of that. So again, like even after going through all the other stuff, it's like, okay, maybe I just strained my back or something. Totally writing off the symptoms again, instead of listening to my body. That's one thing I have learned in this whole experience. Like when something's a little bit off, get checked. But so I started chemo, and I did 8 rounds, and that was to prepare for a stem cell transplant. And so,
So really, was the main reason you did chemo knowing that there was a stem cell transplant in your future? I mean, to control it, but also for that.
Yeah. So they wanted to get my counts back in order, or back under control for the transplant. And so one thing I learned about like the whole counts and everything, and like the TKIs, basically. So the TKIs, the pills that I was taking before, they have to be mild enough to not attack my good cells while controlling the bad,
killing the bad stuff.
So like in that, finding that balance, oftentimes there's a little bit of residual cancer left in the bone marrow, and over time, like that residual cancer can mutate and become resistant to the drugs. And it just so happened that mine happened 6 months into the treatment. So my doctor said the best chance for me to deal with this long term, since I was so young and healthy for the most part, was to just have a transplant. And so that's when it started the chemo to get ready for the transplant.
Man. So that's what I was going to ask you next, is why you need the transplant. So basically chemo stopped working or your cells became resistant to it. So tell us about that. I mean, how does the whole transplant, finding a donor, all of that? I mean, that's huge. That's a whole nother like aspect of cancer. I did the chemo thing, but that's a whole other level.
Yeah. So I had my transplant down at MD Anderson, and it felt like starting at that hospital felt like college orientation. I was down there for a week before appointments even started, just having
Wow.
meetings with like different teams, like so my transplant team, my survivorship team, being shown around the hospital, the different resources and things like that. And basically, we went through the plan, and they told me like, "Hey, we need to find a match for you, but we think we have a potential perfect match, right?" So it's like, "Oh, sweet, that never
Wow.
happens, right?" So,
Yeah.
so they tell me they're like, "We'll reach out to the person and let you know something by the end of the week." So this was on a Monday, and that Wednesday, I received an email. So.
Wow.
Back up. Right? Yeah. So before being diagnosed, I used to give blood all the time at blood drives on campus. And the very
Oh,
last time I gave blood, Be the Match was there for the bone marrow registry. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll just sign up. Right.
randomly,
Yeah.
just
Randomly just sign up.
wow.
Yeah. There was a story. I knew a little girl back in the day. She went to
Yeah.
my church, and she had leukemia, and she couldn't find a match. So they did one at the church. And so that was always in my mind. So when I had this opportunity for the blood drive, it's like, sure, I'll sign up for Be the Match. So when it came time for me to find a match for my transplant, the doctors thought they had a perfect match. And it turns out they matched me to myself. Right. So yeah. So you can imagine, like, I'm at the doctor's. They say,
Oh my gosh.
match. We're going to reach out to the person on Wednesday. I get an email from Be the Match saying, hey,
Oh my.
you signed up. I bet you didn't realize you'd have the opportunity to save someone's life. Here's your chance. And so I call them like, hey, I think you guys matched me to
Oh my.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We had a good laugh about it. But at the same time, I'm like, okay, so now what? So luckily, my doctors were able to test my family members, and my mom was a good enough match.
Wow.
So, yeah, her tissue type, HLA tissue, matched well with mine. So
Now, let me ask you this. The fact that you were matched with yourself, does that say something about how hard it is to get matched?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially with African Americans. So people of African descent they have the most diverse genome on the planet. And then given the history of this country, like, we're pretty diverse genetically. And so, just we're pretty diverse. And
so that makes it harder, I would imagine, because of the diversity. It's harder to find the perfect match, which again was why you matched yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And another issue with that too is,
Interesting.
that people don't sign up for the registry, so there just aren't very many out there. And so
Interesting.
if you don't have a match in your family, it's hard to find one in the registry. So yeah.
So if you're African American, does your donor pretty much have to also be African American? I don't know how the genome, like, I don't know how the matching goes.
Yeah.
But are there certain thing that really that is the match?
Yeah.
I mean, that's part of it. Okay.
Yeah. So the main part of the match, from what I understand, is the HLA typing. It's HLA typing basically, and they're proteins found on the blood cells, and they're involved with the immune response. And so the closer the matches for the HLA tissue, the better the outcome for the transplant will be. If there are too many different types of HLA proteins, your body will see the donor stem cells as a foreign invader, and it'll start to attack it. And so you can end up with really bad graft versus host disease, where your body attacks itself, or, worst case scenario, the transplant fails and you have to try again, or, find other options. So pretty much because the matching's determined by the HLA, and it's genetic, the best way to find a match is to find someone that's within your ethnic group, basically. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Wow. So your mom were all of you have siblings, right?
Yeah, I have a brother and a couple sisters. So.
And did they test but not match as close as your mom?
Yeah, my mom was the closest match, pretty much. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, she that whole process for her was it was a good one. She she said she'd do it all over again, but they basically put her under the day before my transplant, and they did 100 pulls of bone marrow from each side of her hip. And
Oh
so,
my.
yeah, after the procedure, they wheeled her up to my room, and she's just like out of it and like bandaged up. And it's like, Mom,
Wow.
are you okay? She's like, Yeah, I'm fine. I love you.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
yeah, oh,
That's crazy.
yeah,
Um, well, if you're just joining us, we're talking with Jay here about bone marrow transplants and leukemia. If you have any questions, go ahead and put them, or comments, put them in the slide there. Somebody actually, Heather says, the bone marrow registry saved my life. My anonymous donor was from Spain. She's so thankful. So,
so awesome.
um,
Yeah.
is the bone, since I just read that comment, is the bone marrow registry something that's nationwide or worldwide, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I believe it's worldwide. I know Be the Match, it was part of the national program
Okay.
when it originally started. And yeah, it's nationwide, I know, but they do have matches overseas too. So I believe they're part of a network. I don't know the exact specifics of it, but
Yeah,
there are donors from all over the world in the registry. So
that's
yeah,
amazing. Well,
yeah,
right. One from Spain, and I know I've talked to somebody who had one from Germany.
yeah. I know a
So
few
it's
people.
pretty
Yeah,
amazing.
yep.
So, and you mentioned this, I just want to make sure we've covered it, but in terms of there being no match in the registry for you, that was mainly because you needed an African American match and there were few. And you're saying it's fewer African Americans sign up for it. Is that because they don't know about it? Because people don't go into those communities asking for it? Do you know why?
Yeah, a little bit of both of those. So
Okay.
there's not much awareness in the community for the need for this type of stuff. Like the only time it comes up is when someone's family member needs one. Kind of like
Right.
an example, like when I was a child at church, like no one really had it, it's not on anyone's radar until someone needs it. But then like you get into the history of this country too, like there's a distrust of the medical community and the American community just from, look at, the original gynecological studies done on women slaves, and then like the Tuskegee experiment.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a huge mistrust and there's not a lot of awareness. So that leads to the lower numbers of, African Americans in the registry. I believe the percentage is it's 23% of African Americans find donors in the registry that need them. And when you compare that to like 41% of Asian Pacific Islanders, 46% for Hispanic or Latinos, 57% for Native Americans, and 77% for whites. Like you can see like how there's that
huge difference.
Yeah. There are tons of factors causing that. So it's quite bleak.
Well, yeah. Well, here's our public service announcement.
Exactly. That's
how
I always speak on it when I can, because it's such a huge, important topic for me. And like I often think, what would I have done if my mother wasn't a match? Try to maintain it with, the TKIs. Like how long would that work? I'm not sure. So it was really the best chance at me for a solid survivorship, like a life worth living, I feel. And luckily I was able to have my mother as a match. But if I was depending on the registry, it wouldn't have looked as good. So
wow, that is, I did not realize that. That's a significant difference, obviously. So what can people out there do to help?
Well, they can sign up for the registry if healthy.
How do you do that?
So now I'm not sure, given COVID and everything.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
Yeah.
Normally,
like Be the Match, they have blood drives, they have bone marrow drives, and it's as simple as having your cheek swabbed and putting it in a container. And kind of for the registry like that, it's fairly straightforward, and they'll send you paperwork, and that's it. You won't get notified unless you match someone.
Now, let me ask you this: someone who's had cancer, are they automatically ruled out? Like a different kind of cancer, are they automatically ruled out, or is it kind of a case by case?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's
Answer definitively. I do know, like in the case of blood donations and things like that, like cancer
yeah,
patients are eliminated. But
yeah.
I don't know. I
Yeah,
really,
I just was right. That's an interesting.
yeah,
Again, we have a mutual friend who at
right,
one point was looking, but I kind of ruled myself out because of my own cancer history. But I was
right.
wondering if I had done that prematurely, so I'll have to find out.
Yeah, that's a
um,
really good question.
so what is it? So let's say somebody gets matched, and you alluded to this a little, but what's the actual donation process
Yeah,
once there's a match?
yeah. So there are two types of donation processes. There's a peripheral blood stem cell donation or a bone marrow donation. And so with the peripheral blood stem cell donation, it's a non-surgical procedure. It's pretty similar to having your blood drawn. They hook you up to the machines and they stick the needles in your arms. They
Yeah,
draw out your blood and filter it out for the stem cells and then replace the rest of your blood in there. Um, so that's it for that. Basically, that's how you do that. And then
that's crazy.
yeah, right. Like it's kind of like a dialysis.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So that's a peripheral blood stem cell donation, and then there's also bone marrow donation, which my mother did. And
Okay.
so this is actually a surgical procedure. And the doctors, if you're anyone listening, they've had bone marrow biopsies. Like this is kind of a bone marrow biopsy on steroids. So the doctors go into, your iliac crest, and they
Oh, man.
pull a bunch of bone marrow out from each side, and um, yeah,
Oh, gosh.
basically go under, and
Yeah.
it's a procedure.
So when you said your mom had what, a bunch of sticks on her hips, is that
Yeah,
what
she
they were
did.
doing? Okay.
Yeah, so my doctors were. I was part of a clinical trial for my bone marrow, or for my transplant, actually, and so
Oh, interesting.
part of the procedure, they wanted to go through her hip and not her arms because they wanted to get the premature, I believe it was premature T cells
Yeah.
connected to those, and then they treated those before they infused them into my
Wow.
line, and that was to help prevent graft versus host disease, since she wasn't a perfect match. Like she was a good match, but not a perfect
But
one.
not perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they drew the premature cells from her hips and treated them and gave them to me, and it worked. I didn't have graft versus host, which can be a huge,
Oh, yeah. I've heard.
you know,
Yeah.
yeah, I know quite a few people that have had, like not only the skin rashes that it turns your skin leathery, but it attacks your internal organs too. Tears up the lining of your esophagus. Some people can't eat; they have to have feeding tubes, and
Yeah.
it can attack your eyes, all of your fast replicating cells,
Oh,
basically.
yeah.
So
So how long ago was your transplant? Did that all of that take place for you?
this was a little over 7.5 years ago. It's January of 2013. So
Incredible.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. I got to celebrate my 7th birthday with the Epic family. So that was a pretty. It was a good moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That
seeing
is.
how everything had come full circle. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be there, wouldn't be in the mountains if it weren't for them, and
Right.
and if it weren't for cancer, and so to be able to celebrate that milestone with them, it was a good day, good
That's
night.
good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, I just lost my question. Oh, have you, since your bone marrow transplant, have you relapsed?
Oh yeah, so I did relapse slightly at the end of 2016. So
Okay.
I was going in for at that time it was a 3-month checkup, and my BCR-ABL, the tests that they run to detect if I'm still in remission or not, those counts had started rising quite a bit. So after the transplant, I was put back on another TKI, and but it was under control. It was always, I forget the exact number, but it was to the point where I was basically in remission, right? And so during that checkup at the end of 2016, the count started to go up again. And so this was right before the Thanksgiving holiday, and I was heading out to California. And so my doctor said, go enjoy the holidays, and we'll take care of this when we get back in January. I'm thinking, like,
I don't know about that.
holidays. Like, you just told me my cancer's coming back, right? So luckily, once I got back. She put me on a new TKI to Cigna, and within 3 months, March of 2017, I was back in remission again, and this time there was no evidence of disease at all. So the Tasigna is a new, I believe it's the third generation TKI, and so it's able to wipe out any residual disease at all. So I've been on that one since, and for the most part, it's done me well.
So you're saying the residual, meaning before you had said there could be a few other cells left, and you're saying this takes care of all of that.
Took care of everything, wiped it completely out. Like I have since March of 2017, every single test, like none, it's always 0.000. So yeah, it's pretty great. Like the drug itself isn't so bad. Like some of the side effects, like I'll have rashes and fatigue sometimes. But I say if that's the worst thing I have to deal with, going through this, like I'll take it, right? Like you just have to power through and deal with it. So now,
is this something you're basically going to have to take for the rest of your life?
Yeah, it is. I'll definitely have to take it the rest of my life until something better comes along. Yeah, recently I started having liver enzyme issues. It's been about a year and a half now, and so couldn't figure out what was going on, and so we have my dose of the medication that seemed to take care of it. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's a lifelong, commitment, and I don't know. It's causing issues slowly.
Isn't that the way it is?
Yeah. So
it's helping one thing, but it's wreaking havoc on others.
Yep, in the long run. So like a young adult cancer survivor, it's like what will my quality of life look like 15 years from now? Will this drug have taken its toll to the point where I'm barely living because I'll need oxygen, or have serious heart issues or things like that? I don't know.
Now, interesting, because it was new when you started, do they have data on that, or is it really an unknown?
No, it's an unknown. I don't think the only TKI that they have long-term studies on is the original one, Gleevec. I think that one's been out about 20 years now, but the newer generations, they're still fairly new. I believe mine, I don't want to give a date because I don't know when it came out.
No, that's fine. No, I just remember you saying it was new, and then I realized that probably means there's not much long-term.
Yeah. Long-term data. I'm giving it to them, I guess.
You are. Thank you, Jay. Thank you for providing.
Doing my part always.
If you happen to be watching us again and you have a question for Jay, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll put that out there. If you're just joining us, this is episode 19 of the Beyond Cancer series, and we're talking with Jay Carter, who is a cancer leukemia survivor and a bone marrow transplant. 7 years? Almost? Yeah, 7 years. Looking healthy and awesome.
I worked out.
One thing I didn't ask you earlier, when you first got diagnosed, you said your mom donated. What was your family's response? And a step before that, how did you even tell them? How did you go about telling your family and friends when you were first diagnosed?
Yeah, so when I was first diagnosed, I was in the hospital for, I believe, 10 days. And so my brother and my dad knew that I was in the hospital. And so I told them right away, once I found out what it was. And I slowly trickled out the news to the rest of my family, hey, this is cancer, except for my mother. She gets pretty emotional, and it's a mom.
Yeah. It's your mom.
No mother wants to hear that her son has cancer. And so the entire week it was so stressful because not only dealing with, the doctors coming in and all the treatments and all that, I'm trying to figure out a way, how do I tell my mom? Right. Yeah. And so instead of blurting it out, I have cancer, I told her that following Saturday. So after being in the hospital for a week, I told her, I basically explained what was going on genetically with me, right? So these guys are doing this and blah, blah, blah. They figured it out. We have treatments. It's going to be fine. And she's like, oh, okay. And then I was like, do you want to know what it is? And she's like, so it's cancer. And then the tears start flowing, of course.
But you hear that word and
but then I had what I had just told her previously to fall back on. I was like, you just heard what's going on. It's going to be fine. So stop crying, right? So that was it.
Oh my.
A little bit, but Yeah.
Well, and ultimately, I mean, that's so awesome that she was a match and I'm sure that made her feel wonderful that she could have a part in
Oh yeah, she
your
won't.
healing. I mean, really.
Yeah, she won't shut up about it. Like she,
Oh, now I see.
yeah, she calls me every single day, and like if I don't answer the
You
phone,
better.
like she'll text me like, "I gave you life twice. You better pick up the
Oh,
phone."
that's
Yeah,
good. I love it.
yeah.
That's
So
awesome. How about your friends? How did you go on about kind of sharing the news with them?
so my really close friends, we, have great relationships anyways, where we'd
Yeah,
get pretty deep in conversation. So it was fairly
yeah,
easy to tell them.
yeah.
Obviously, with a phone call, you don't text people,
Right.
stuff like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
They were so supportive too. Like
Oh, that's good.
two of the ones, like they were the two that came to visit me as I was going through treatment. Like once I started actual chemo, and so
Yeah,
um, always have a special place in my heart for those guys. That's the
yeah.
best
Oh,
thing
yeah.
in the wedding. So,
That's awesome.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
it's pretty
that
easy.
is
But
cool.
everyone else, like kind of casual acquaintances, I kind of threw it on Facebook eventually. It's
Yeah.
like whatever, they'll find out anyway. So
Yeah, really. Yeah, no, that's true. And it takes energy, I remember,
it does. Yeah,
to tell people.
it takes so much energy, and that's why I ended up writing up like a document going through
Yeah,
everything I'd gone through, just because I hated having to tell a new person, because it's like I was reliving those moments every
yeah,
single time I told the story, and so it's like
yeah,
I don't have the energy to do this. Like, here's what I went through. Like, read this.
yeah, really. And if you're offended, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
sorry. I don't
it's
know you that
true.
well. I'm not gonna like have a heart to heart convo with
Yeah,
you, right?
yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Um, Now, as you've gone through your cancer journey, I'm sure you've met various people who are diagnosed with the same treatment, or if not, I mean, not same treatment, same kind of cancer, or if not that, people who also went through bone marrow
Right.
transplant.
Yeah.
What do you tell people, kind of up front, or how have you found the best way to support someone who's up against this diagnosis and
Yeah.
all of that?
Yeah, definitely. So I met a lot of people, and I also I'm a member of MD Anderson's Anderson Network. So like
Oh,
I'll have
cool.
people who are getting ready for the transplant process, and they'll call me, like, hear my experience on it. And the one thing I always tell them is listen to your body and listen to your doctors. Because like if
That's
you're
good.
in tune with your body, like when something's off, and um,
Yeah.
feel out how you're feeling, but also listen to your doctors, who they know best. So when they're telling you, wear mask in public, and this was before COVID and all, like,
COVID, right. Yeah, right.
wear mask in public, like wear gloves, like frequently wash
Do
your hands,
it.
stay away from, yeah, listen to them, because
Yeah.
I know so many people, like I've met people over the years that same diagnosis, same stem cell transplants, and
Yeah.
they're gone now because they didn't
Wow.
listen to their doctors, like
So like a secondary infection or something like that?
yeah,
As a
so one,
wow.
yeah, one, a good friend of mine, she lived in the area, and she was an elementary school teacher, and she had a stem cell transplant, and she went back to work, I think,
Oh,
2 months after her transplant.
two,
Uh,
2 months?
2 months after her transplant. Yeah, that's
Wow. To the
no,
classroom, which is a
to the classroom. Yeah,
petri dish of
okay, well, germs. Yeah, like you don't do that, and
oh man.
I don't know. I guess it's an unfortunate state of
Yeah.
healthcare. You know,
Right.
she needed to work to have healthcare, and
Right.
unfortunately, she was working for healthcare, and she ended up passing away. It's like I always say,
Wow.
like no job is worth losing your life.
Yeah.
Like you can't work if you're dead, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of harsh, but
Well, yeah.
you
But
know,
that's a good point to listen in terms of those precautionary things. I mean, now people are more aware of it, right? It's
yeah,
more acceptable now to wear a mask or to wear gloves.
yeah,
But in 2 years, hopefully, we won't all be still be doing this. But even then, someone in your situation, that would be the wise thing to do.
yeah, definitely. No matter how crazy of stairs you get in the store, like I can't tell
Right.
you, middle of summer, I'm
Oh,
going
I'm sure.
like full on gloves. Like I had to wear long sleeves.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I was sensitive to the sun too. So I have hat, gloves, sunglasses, mask. like
In the
people,
middle of summer.
yeah, in the middle of summer in Texas, no less. So like
Oh
I
my
walk through
God.
the store, people look at me like I'm gonna rob them or something. They're like, "Who is this?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sure you got some
Yeah, I
like
got some strange looks.
either they thought you were crazy or they thought you were there to
Exactly. I'm like, no, guys, I have Hickman, I have cancer. Like,
Wow. Yeah.
protect myself. I'm not trying to do anything funny.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean,
No,
that's
that's
the
good.
thing. It's tough, like having to adjust to those changes, um, and so I say, listen to your doctor. Right?
Yeah.
Like, no matter how much you want to be normal, like just take this time to get better for yourself.
Yeah.
So
There's time to be normal later.
yeah, like
After you just mentioned something about your life changing. How did your life change, at least temporarily and even long term? What are side effects or adjustments you've had to make as a result of the transplant and also your ongoing treatment?
yeah. So when this all started, I was working my way into getting into the healthcare field, and that was completely out of the window once
Yeah.
I did treatment and the transplant.
Wow.
I had to have my immune, what are they? The vaccines, like childhood
Oh, right.
vaccines, to redo all those again. And
Really?
one of them didn't take, and it's the one that you need to work in healthcare settings, right? And so,
Oh, man.
luckily, as I was going through treatment, I started building websites. I built a website for one of my former lab partners. He was opening a gym, and that sort of took off. That became my new,
Interesting.
career. I was able to work from home. No, don't have to be around people or
Yeah.
crowds. Like
Yeah.
social distancing before it was a thing, right? Yeah.
Exactly. And
So
you were hit before it all became a
yeah,
thing.
I'm the hipster.
Right.
Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah, total. So in terms of changes, like total career shift
Yeah.
into tech, basically, and that's what I do now. And
Yeah.
I said I wanted to help people, and that's why I wanted to go in the healthcare field. I'm still helping people, but in different ways. So
Interesting.
yeah, but in terms of like, I don't know, lifestyle changes, just being more aware of my environment and germs. And I've become a huge
Yeah.
germaphobe. Like I don't like shaking hands
Yeah.
or doing hugs or like
Yeah.
always ask Colin. I'm always taking showers when I'm in Denver, staying at their house to take like 4 showers a day. Like
Interesting.
yeah. Like, I
So
was
funny.
from like just going through treatment, and I was told like shower, like constantly wash off.
Yeah.
It became a habit, and so those
Interesting.
little things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to think what else.
What
Yeah.
about, I mean, I know, again, you've been an athlete, right, your whole life. Has it affected your ability to work out or the way in which you work out or the types of exercise you can do or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've had to learn to take it easy a little bit. Being an athlete,
Yeah.
I was taught like push yourself like hard or go one
Right.
more, right?
You have more. You have more.
Right. And
Yeah.
so like after after my stem cell transplant, my doctors didn't want me to work out because they said I can have an aneurysm if I held my breath. So I was like, well, what can I do? I'm not just going to sit in the house. And so he's like,
Right.
ride a bike. So I picked up a bike and I started riding around the lake. And
Interesting.
so by then I'd met a good buddy of mine. And so we started riding together and we trained for the Live Strong Challenge. But the
Oh,
athlete
cool.
in me, still took it too hard and I was hospitalized twice, rhabdomyolysis, right? So after those 2 stints in the hospital with rhabdo, I kind of learned how to take it
Took
easy.
it down a notch.
Yeah. Still like find ways to be fit, but
Yeah.
don't push myself to extremes, like my
Yeah.
body says stop. So, but yeah, I had to figure it out. Like fitness, physical activity was one of the things that kept me sane through treatment. And afterwards, just trying to get back to having a normal life, So, yeah.
What has been one of the change that maybe seemed difficult at first, but you were surprised that actually it's been a good thing? Maybe something that you weren't expecting to be okay, but it's actually been okay.
That's a really good question. Let me.
Sorry, I didn't mean to bring that on you.
No,
I'm just going off of your comments. I'm like, ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, no, I'd probably say the whole kids thing. So like after this transplant, I can't have kids now, like biologically, anyways. So I'd have to.
Wow, I would have never thought of that.
Yeah, so I have to adopt. Like, I mean, there's a chance for a miracle, but I'm not going to hold my breath for
Right.
that. But when I first, I knew it was the possibility, but when I found out it was reality, uh,
Yeah.
it was kind of like I had to mourn the life that I
Yeah.
thought I was going to live, right? And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
I imagine by now, like I'm 35 now, I thought I'd be married and have kids,
Right.
like a son and a daughter, like do tea parties with my
Right.
teach my son how to play
Throwing the
football.
football.
Yeah,
Yeah. Whatever.
exactly. So realizing that that's not going to be a reality
Wow.
in the way that I thought it would be, like it really hit me pretty hard, like at
Yeah.
first, but over time, yeah, I had to work through it, and now I'm like, okay, like I have tons of friends now with kids, and I'm just Uncle Jay,
I was
and
just going to say, you are an awesome Uncle Jay. That's
yeah,
awesome.
Uncle Jay, go get them hyped up, give them candy, and then leave them with their parents.
Of course. What else does an uncle do? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
it's one of those things now. I'm like, I'm fine with it, but at first,
Yeah.
yeah, it was tough. Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah,
know there's little things that you think maybe it'll be hard. Um, and then it is definitely hard. And then you
right.
go past it. Or at
Yeah,
least not necessarily get past it, but you at least are become okay with it.
yeah. Become okay
You
with it.
know,
And I feel like
yeah,
that's like everything in life that's hard, like the
it's
passing of
true.
a parent or a
Yeah,
loved one or something like that. It's you just have to find a way to keep on going because life's not going to stop, right?
that is true. That is true. Yes. Yes. If 2020 has taught us anything, it's that it
Right.
keeps going. No
Yeah,
matter
just
what
keep
it's like,
going. I
it keeps
will
going and going and going.
going. I will say that it's been tough, like challenging this whole
Yeah.
COVID situation. Like,
Oh, interesting.
yeah, one thing like with cancer, I was, able to, like, there was kind of a timetable for
Yeah.
when things would be somewhat back to normal.
Right.
So okay, I'll wear this mask in public and look crazy and like do this and do that. Um, but eventually I knew it'd be fine.
Right.
And with COVID, like I know it's going to be fine, but there's no timetable for this. And like,
None.
what are we going to look like the next year? Like I'm being told to cancel half of 2021 already. It's like, when
Right.
is it going to end? I'm used to traveling and meeting
Yeah.
people in person, not talking on video, right?
Yes, I hear you. Yes.
So it's one of those things. It's just like
I know.
persevere, but it's
Has it given you kind of a PTSD? I know it's affected people in different ways. Being a cancer survivor in particular, and with you having already those things in place, the mask and the
right.
gloves and all of that. Has it kind of given you flashbacks in any way like that?
Not so much flashbacks. This is something completely new,
Yeah, that's true. It is.
Yeah, like I've had flashbacks, like maybe at first, like going in the store with mask on, a little bit of a flashback with the gloves too, but
Yeah.
now it's just, it's something.
When is this going to end? Yeah.
Yeah, when is this going to be over?
Yeah,
But it will be, and just have
it
to
will.
stay safe.
This too shall pass.
Yeah, wear those
Exactly.
masks.
Yes,
Sooner
exactly.
everyone wears
Yes,
those.
here's our PSA for wearing the mask.
Yes. Epic has their campaign going right now.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Again, if you're just joining us, we have a few more minutes. If you have any questions, go ahead and post them. Jay obviously will take questions that weren't even planned and answer them with grace.
Sure.
Which I just
I'll
threw
do
at
my
him.
best.
I just threw one at him. One question I like to ask too is if you could go back and you knew things that you know now, like if you could tell yourself, "Hey Jay, be ready for this."
Right.
Is there anything that comes to mind, or is the list so long that you don't even know where to start?
Oh, yeah, it's a long list, but I don't know. I'm not sure I'd tell myself.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I feel like everything that happened led me to where I am today, and it was all a process of growth, right? And so,
Right.
like,
Exactly.
if I would have gone through it knowing what was coming already, I wouldn't have had to work through it. And so, like,
Yeah.
going through everything I did made me a stronger person, definitely. And so,
Yeah.
I might give myself a few pointers here and there, but like it was a journey.
Yeah.
One of my buddies called it a cancer cruise, right? So it's
Ooh,
like
yeah, I like that.
on this cruise, right?
Not the one you sign up for, but that's all right. We can still cruise.
Shout out to Trevor at Man Up to Cancer. But yeah,
Awesome.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What has been one of the ways in times where it is harder,
Uh-huh.
whether you're dealing with, the reality you're not going to have kids, or you're just feeling like crap or whatever, what are some things that you do to kind of calm yourself down or encourage yourself, give yourself that, kind of kick in the pants kind of thing?
Right. So lots of meditation. I meditate every morning.
Really?
Yeah, in the evening. I feel like meditation for me sets the tone for the day. And then
That's
in the
awesome.
evening, it takes the day away, right? So whatever happened throughout the day, you can just leave it all in meditation and then have a good night rest, right?
Yeah.
And so meditation, and then I also work out a lot
Yeah.
too. Like, so I do crazy stuff. I actually recently bought rollerblades, and so I haven't been on rollerblades in about 20 years. But
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
like, just being physical outdoors or like in the gyms before they were closed, like, it's hard to feel sorry for yourself when you're going down a hill at 30 miles an hour, or you have like 300 pounds of weight under you over you in a bar, So I really focus on the physical activities for, my physical health, and meditation for mental health. And it works for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know. I definitely. Well, is there anything I didn't ask you that you would want to share? Related to bone marrow transplants, the registry, you're, dealing with cancer, any of those kind of things?
I don't think so. I think you covered it all.
I covered it all. I covered even more than I thought I was going to.
Right.
Well, Jay, thank you so much. It's great to see you again. Haven't seen you for a while, so
it's been a while.
Personal note, it's very good to see you.
Very good to see you too. Yeah.
But thank you so much for sharing with us. And for those of you watching, we hope you join us in 2 weeks. We will have another episode. It will be episode 20 for 2020, which is never ending here on.
We're going.
Yes, it's still going. But thank you so much for sharing, for being willing to answer questions that we didn't even plan on. We really appreciate it. And also, we just want to put another plug out there. Sign up for the registry if you are able to, especially if you're African American. Someone like Jay could have used your help, and so that's an important thing. And wear your mask. That's our other.
Wear your mask.
Wear your mask. Yeah. All right, Jay. Thank you so much.
All righty. Thanks for having me. All righty. All righty.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Epic Experience was founded after my oldest son, Michael, was diagnosed with testicular cancer in 2007. I wanted to offer up hope to other cancer survivors so people know they're not alone, so that they know they can get out and start living again. It just may look different than how it did before they had cancer.
Epic Experience is unique in the fact that we really pride ourselves on trying to take anyone and everyone that we can. Doesn't matter when you were diagnosed. If you've been diagnosed 5 years out, 10 years out, 20 years out, we don't put a timeline on it. We say that, you know what, if you've had cancer come into your life, we have a place for you.
Epic Experience. One word, it's epic.
Yeah!
You have a chance to come up here and do some things that you've never probably done before.
This camp has taught me, why are you afraid? What's stopping you? I got out on the water in the pond here, and I'm I haven't done a headstand in a long time, and it's really difficult to do it on water, and I'm what am I afraid of?
At camp, it's about healing your soul and your spirit and living beyond that cancer diagnosis, having fun, being with people that understand, and really just embracing everything that life has to offer you.
They just said you were going to go to a camp, and I didn't even know where it was going to be. I got hauled up the mountain and got to play in the snow, and the thing that happened is I rediscovered joy, found myself again. Favorite memories from camp? Running down the hill in snowshoes. It's something I never really considered before.
I got on a sled today, and I'm going to be honest, I've beat cancer, but I was still nervous to get on a sled.
Well, kayaking is individual. You're all alone in your boat, and it's you versus the elements and how strong you are and getting through the challenges that are coming up, whether they're rapids or something in the water in the way. And with cancer, it's you versus your diagnosis.
Epic Experience is about empowering adult cancer survivors and thrivers beyond their cancer diagnosis. It's about giving them a community in which they feel that they have people they can connect with, that understand them, and walk their shoes to really know, hey, you know what? I'm not alone, and I have people with me, and it's so important for them to feel that connection.
Things that I used to worry about don't worry me as much anymore. Family is critically important. Friends and experiences is what life is about.
Well, I didn't think I needed this week, but I needed it more than I knew. I needed to just play in the snow. I needed to laugh until my sides hurt. I needed to connect with people, even though I didn't think I did. I needed to find out that I'm not alone in things I think I'm alone in.
So here at the 7W Ranch, not only are the activities that we do for the week amazing, but just the beautiful scenery around alone makes it just so incredible.
I was feeling a bit lost and unsure how to cope with life after cancer. I feel like Epic Experience brought me closer to who I used to be and who I want to be in the future.
Want me to cry when I talk about 7W? It's magic. Just say, it's special.
If you are debating on coming on this trip, just do it. Don't hesitate. I hesitated. I waited till the last minute, and I am so grateful that I came here.
This has been life-changing. This week has absolutely changed my life in ways that I couldn't have even imagined that it would.
Epic Experience is the right name for this experience. Trust, go for it.
Why can't you experience this? It's something that they've already been through, cancer treatments, whatever the therapy is, and this is another way to heal.
If you want to really check back in with yourself and find out where your inner person is and where your soul survives, come to a camp and just let it be.
Don't think about it. Don't wonder, should I? Just do it. Sign up for camp, and it will be an amazing experience full of a lifetime of memories.